Welcome to County Fair on Waycross Community Media. Each month, we take a look at some element of our government here in Hamilton County. I'm Dana Gagnon, Government Programming Coordinator at Waycross Community Media. And today, in our studio, we have with us Trina Jackson, Director of Hamilton County's Office of Reentry. Thanks so much for joining us, Trina.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
So this, to me, is a new department. This is a new office to know about. So tell me exactly what the Office of Reentry is.
Right. So Office of Reentry is about 5-6 years old. It started with our county commissioners then creating it with Deanna Hoskins. She was a former director.
Okay.
I came to the office almost 2.5 years ago. And our role really is to connect returning citizens, anyone with a conviction in their background, connect them to the resources in the community to support them, but also identify strategies to reduce recidivism in Hamilton County. When we look at recidivism, Hamilton County is not doing too bad. The state recidivism is around 27%. The country is about 50%, so wow. Hamilton County is right in the middle at about 33-35% recidivism.
Okay.
So we're not bad at all,
okay.
But we have a lot of work to do still. So our office is consistently identifying ways to, reduce the number of people flowing in and out of the jail, on a regular basis. We have a lot of frequent flyers, as we would say, people that come in and out of the jail pretty often. And, we need to identify ways to keep that from happening.
And just because I know sometimes we use terms that are the right terms, but they're not always what people hear. But this is when an individual is leaving a correctional facility and leaving a jail and trying to re-enter, for the re-entry part of the title, trying to re-enter society. There are daily things that they did not need to know in the correctional facility, but they need to know to be successful and not have to go back there. So this is fantastic because those kind of resources aren't necessarily something that most people know. Where can we find them? Can we go to one place? There's just so many different aspects of daily life that don't even occur to us. What are some of the things that people have the biggest challenges with when they're trying to re-enter like that?
Well, it's different depending on how much time you serve.
Okay.
So people that have served lengthier sentences, like 10, 20 years, think about it. 20 years ago, we didn't have the type of phones that we have right now,
True.
20 years ago, we didn't have self-check at the grocery store, So there's, people that have been incarcerated for longer periods of time have sometimes a different set of challenges. But people that, maybe at the Justice Center, they served 90 days, they served 180 days. Their challenges may be a little less extensive, but there's always a common theme. So housing is a challenge regardless of how much time you served. Getting a job can be a huge barrier depending on, your sentence that you served and depending on your conviction. And transportation, you don't have a car, in today's society, things are more spread out. And so, the employment centers sometimes are, maybe outside of the area where you live. It may be considerably further away. So there's a common set of challenges, and then there's challenges that are just specific sometimes to the length of stay.
True. Some of those are not ones that I think would even occur to me. Just technology. It's 20 years. That's a whole other generation.
That's right.
When it comes to literally the kind of things they would do in jobs that they're applying for.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Even all the emailing that we do and Facebook, Instagram, you know what I mean? Everything, all the way that we market ourselves personally as well as market programs, everything's different.
So this is not just an office that's individually creating each one of these resources, but it looks like, because I took a look at yours, that you're gathering a lot of the ones that are already in place together to help people connect to them. What are some of the resources that you're partnered with?
Right. So we're a referral and support organization, and so we rely on the resources in the community to support our clients. So providers to address housing needs, of course, providers that provide services around addiction and mental health, basic needs like food and clothing. We provide bus tickets when people need them to get to their possible employment opportunities. Other providers that will help you just stay in a shelter, until you can find a better housing, you know what I mean? Things like that.
I find that to be such an important resource to just collect that all. I know that Hamilton County has an awful lot of resources.
It does.
It's really great, and as you pointed out, we have lower percentages of the recurrence, which is great. We want them even lower. But the people coming out don't necessarily know where to look for all of that. One thing that struck me looking at some of the lists of resources is that the people that interact with someone on a daily basis, that may be homeless, that may be reentering society, they may not be the ones in your office, but if they were to print that list of resources, they would have that, or have it handy and save a tree. I understand that, and have that bookmarked on their computer. I saw on your website a 310-page PDF file with homeless and low-income resources. That is a phenomenal resource. It would take a really long time for someone to find those on their own, just starting from scratch and looking for that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's it. Like you said, it's such a huge compilation of information. A lot of those organizations are definitely still operating, and that's awesome. But I would just, say that if you come across one that's not, there's plenty more that are. And they're in that book.
Yeah, and, well, it's a very long list.
Yeah.
And for every need,
Yeah.
there are multiple people listed. So that gives just a starting place to call down that list. That's a
good start.
A lot less frustrating than I'm just sitting here in front of Google hoping I find something. This is much more useful.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing, though, that I can see at on that page is a OneStop resource center, and that's new, right?
Yes, that's new. We're excited about that. We decided that we could take this model that came out of Franklin County, which was a reentry model, and it's I think it's called First Step. And what happens is they bring all the providers, in the community that, address basic needs like jobs and family services, the BMV, housing providers, substance abuse providers, legal aid to look at, whether or not you can have your record expunged. All of those different providers in one room on one particular day at one particular time, and it's consistently done each month. And so we wanted to take that model and bring it here. And so what they do in Franklin County, people receive a service, and that's what we're trying to do with this. We don't want people to come for a resource fair and just pick up information, even though those are good. But if we could take that model and offer it in Hamilton County where people can address more than one need at one time, I think that would be phenomenal. And it would just kind of address the barrier of transportation. It's hard to go from Jobs and Family Services over to CityLink, or it's hard to go from Jobs and Family Services to the VA. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a lot trying to get around in Hamilton County sometimes, and so this initiative is trying to help with that.
And often, one trip says, well, the DMV can't help you yet. You need to go over here and get a birth certificate first. And if you're talking to someone who has challenges with transportation, that's just like saying you can't do this at all.
That's right.
So having this, so this is going to be a day like a resource fair, but you can really do it. You're not just going to go home with a sheet of paper that says, here's how you can. That is phenomenal.
Yes, and so we're hoping, and what we're expecting is for people to come on September 27th, and it'll be the last Friday of every month.
Okay.
And they'll receive a service. They'll either start the intake process, they'll walk away with an appointment, maybe they had an assessment. If they want to get clean that day, they can get clean that day. We can make sure that we can get them to where they want to go for treatment that day. We have so many partners that are willing to do that. our Cincinnati and our Hamilton County Public Health will both be in the room, as well as have the van. Hamilton County will have the van where you can exchange your needles. Our Maslow's Army will be there if you're homeless. And, you take a shower in their van. You can get clothes, you can get food in that van. We'll have sober living providers. Sober living homes or homes where, if you want to stay in a clean environment, other people are trying to stay clean, you can live there for a certain amount of time and, go through your treatment program, work, and things like that. But they'll be there. We'll have mental health providers there. CMHA, Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing, will be there. The BMV will be there. I know, it's just like 24 providers. I can't, list them all, but.
And I've seen situations where some of those organizations would be somewhere to let you know about them and to give you their flyer. But this is where they can actually do what that organization does right there at OneStop Resource Day.
Yes, exactly.
I want to read the list that was listed because birth certificates, just getting your paperwork so you can actually take the next step in a lot of programs.
That's right. That's right.
Addiction services, you said mental health care, child support modification, housing, record sealing, expungent, you talk about expunging records, health care, recovering housing, syringe exchange, homelessness, and of course you mentioned most of these already. Those are all the steps, and this is not just for community citizens coming from correctional facilities. This is for the entire community.
That's right.
Okay,
Yes.
That's important because it's the Office of Reentry, but this day, One-Stop Resource Center, that's for everybody then.
Right. We
Okay.
don't need to make a distinction that day. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Of who has a conviction and who doesn't. We all need the same things. You know what I mean? We
Well,
all need
yeah.
the same services.
Yeah.
And so we want to make that available to the entire Hamilton County community.
Absolutely. So the first one ever, September 27th.
Yes.
Now, where is this?
This will be at the Hamilton County Justice Center.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
And if people would like to find more information about these or when the future dates are, will those be posted on the website?
It will be, but for September and October, it will be the final Friday for
Okay.
each month.
Okay.
But you can go to reentrytoday.com
Okay.
and go to our website, and you'll see a couple blocks. The second block is about the OneStop.
Okay, so reentrytoday.com. So anybody looking for future ones or more information about anything that we've talked about,
Right.
that's a good resource. Because there's going to be something that we forgot, or they're going to want to contact, or they're going to have a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've been doing this now for a few years. Are there any particular stories that stand out to you that this one moment made me really be able to see how these services are helping?
Right. And the services, you mean the things that we
Or
provide?
your connection, because what you really are the connection. And because there are these wonderful services in Hamilton County, but they just don't help if the people who need them don't know how to look for them.
Right.
So.
Right. So one of the things that stands out is 2 of our clients came into our office about a week ago, and they just came to tell us how well they were doing. Yeah, and so we became a part of their lives when they were at the Justice Center.
Okay.
Because one of the things that we strongly believe is that it's important to do pre-release planning. Pre-release planning it just kind of gives someone a roadmap, basically on where they're going for different services, what their goals are when they're out of incarceration. And so we're able to do that at the jail, at the local level. We have a pod called the Exit Pod.
Okay.
And so these 2 gentlemen came from the Exit Pod, and when they got out, I think they've probably been out, at least 6 months or more, probably close to a year. But we helped them with their sober living so that they wouldn't have to just go to the community where they were, maybe that may have some other influences, but they went straight to a home where other people were, trying to make sure they stayed clean as well. We gave them 30 days of sober living, and ever since then, they are working. They are now in some form of management, either at the Sober Living House or some other organization, and they're reconnected with their families. And that's such a big part of this reentry work. You know, a lot of times there's a disconnect with the families, you know, when someone is incarcerated, and prior to that incarceration, there might have been some trouble there. But bringing people to a place where they can actually reconnect with their families is really important to keeping them out of the justice system as well. So those two individuals came, and it gave you a reason to continue doing what you're doing.
Yes.
You know, so it was awesome.
A lot of times in any of these kinds of services, you don't get to see the end. You get to maybe put someone on a path and hope.
That's right. That's right.
That is, first of all, how great of them to come back and make sure you got to see. That was just really thoughtful and really great.
I know, it was amazing.
But also that you told us, because now we get to know that you're seeing the other side of it. And now that you've been a few years down the road, you can see that connection. And that connection is happening right in the Justice Center before they even leave.
That's right.
Which I'm sure is the key. If you send them home and say, here's a flyer, some people you can call, don't think that's going to make the real difference. So
yeah, it typically doesn't. You know, we know that recidivism, typically occurs within a year. You know, if we are able to get, keep someone out of the system for a year, they have a better chance of staying out long term. You know.
And if someone isn't excited just about the story aspect of this, which is great, that's just economical. Yeah. It's expensive when someone's continuously returning. Yeah. And it's not only less expensive, but now someone is contributing instead of, and that's the boring part of it is, but it is also very much a practical part of that equation. That's right. And something for people to be aware of when they look at your office and what it's doing and the impact it has on the county. Right.
Right. It costs $26,000 to house someone for a year at the Justice Center. So imagine if, we were to reduce that number by 5 to 10%, just by, providing some other forms of intervention to keep them, from coming back into the jail. We could save a whole lot of money.
You could spend just a little of that on some of these services.
That's right. Yeah. Put the money in, invest it, invest it in people. In their growth and development, as opposed to, locking people up. It seems to be kind of evident now. It doesn't pay to incarcerate someone that's got mental illness. It doesn't pay to incarcerate someone that's dealing with homelessness and substance abuse. They're going to come back, until they get the treatment or get the type of support that they need. But, people that are one-time offenders make a mistake, it really doesn't pay to incarcerate them as well if we can keep them out and give them the right support in the community so that they can maybe stay employed or they can stay in school or, whatever it is, and help them make better choices that way.
And when the economic thing lines up with the hopeful, exciting, we get to watch people's lives improve thing, and you talked about families. These are people that have children and parents and siblings that they can connect back to again. There's just the effects continue to kind of spiral on themselves, kind of like that. So it's exciting to look at. Beyond the economics, but the economics are something that I know a lot of people want to make sure they look at. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that that makes sense. Everybody's concerned about the bottom line, whether it's your own or it's what I mean. Yeah. And so, but like you said, if we can show the benefits on both ways, I think hopefully the community will support reentry initiatives.
So is there anything else that you want to make sure we know about the resources that you can connect people to before we wrap up?
Okay. Well, what I hoped is that, through this conversation, one, we were able to talk about the OneStop, but the other thing is that regardless of how long you've been out of a facility, you were incarcerated once, it really doesn't matter. We'll work with you. If you have challenges getting employed, we can connect you with the right people to help you with that. If there's challenges around any type of other supportive services that you need, maybe it's child support modification, we can help you with that. We do our very best to support people in the ways that they need support. And regardless of even if you didn't serve time, but you have a conviction on your record, you'll still possibly experience some barriers because of that record. And so we want to help you get around that and be successful in however you define success for yourself.
I think that's a big part of it, is that through these connections, people that might be more likely to return to correctional facilities because they don't see any other goals or possibilities or any hope to look towards any other options. This gives them another whole path to say, oh, there's hope for this. There's possibilities for this. I didn't think there were any possibilities, but there are possibilities for things to do. And so I want to just really encourage people to share the information. It's reentrytoday.com.
Yes.
It's September 27th is OneStop Resource Center Day,
Right.
but then there'll also be the last, is it the last
Friday of each month, yes.
Okay.
So we'll be there. We're operating September and October.
Okay.
We know Black Friday's coming in November, so we won't do that.
Okay, yeah,
So
fair enough, yeah.
So November, December, we'll take a break.
Okay.
And then we'll start back up in January. So that final Friday in January, we'll be up and running again.
And folks watching that just aren't sure what they need, or they want to connect to someone, or they know that their friend really needs to connect to things and they want to call and see if they can get them connected to this, can they just call a phone number and catch someone? What's the phone number they should call?
513-946-4304. That's our office number.
Okay, so if they can get to the website, or if they can just call, the Office of Reentry Hamilton County has. And thank you so much, Trina, for coming in.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it, and I look forward to being able to continue to share this kind of information and all of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. I'm excited every time I get a chance to talk about this work. Yeah.
Getting to see the end results, especially so recently that they just come in.
Yeah.
That really helps keep the excitement, I think.
It does.
That
It
is
does,
really
and
great.
it just it's a case study on why we do this work.
Yes.
You know, the proof is in the pudding, I guess. You know what I
Yes.
mean? We've got people who were not taxpayers 12 months ago. Now they're taxpayers.
Yes. Even if we just want to look at the economics, not taxpayers, but costing taxpayers, right? Now they're not costing; they are taxpayers.
Yeah, and they're happy to be taxpayers, and I think that's something that doesn't come to mind, is that people would rather work, and make their own way. They don't want to be incarcerated.
Sure.
If they have the right supports, they can do that.
They just need to get connected.
Right.
Well, thank you so much. I really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
And you have been watching County Fair on Waycross Community Media. Stay tuned each month to find out what's going on in your county of Hamilton County, Ohio.